Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Ram Ram. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram. Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Ji ki, Shri Shri Radha Kalajan Ji Bhagavan ki, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki, Thai Gaur Premanandi. So these wonderful days where the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes are the times that we get a chance to intensify our remembrance of the Lord. In India, the Ramayana is probably the most well-known story, right? Mahabharat's probably number 2, but Ramayan's probably the most well-known story. So how many of you know the story of Ramayana? See, everybody knows, almost. So it's impossible to condense that into 45 minutes, obviously, because it's hours and hours and hours long. And that's just the condensed versions. What to speak of the actual, I think there's 20,000 or 22,000 verses in the Ramayana, something like that, right? 18,000 verses in the Bhagavatam, is even more in the Ramayana. Huh? 24? Okay. So we're not going to really discuss too many of those 24,000 verses, because that takes, if you read the Srimad Bhagavatam every day for, I think, like 41 minutes or something, then you can do it in a whole year, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Ramayana's even longer. Okay, so we're going to start off this with some prayers. How many of you have read Srimad Bhagavatam? Not too many. You need to get on it. This is like the most special literature on earth, the Srimad Bhagavatam. It will allow you to understand the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It will allow you to understand that Krishna is the source of all the incarnations, It'll allow you to understand so many things about yourself, being the eternal servant of the Lord. Sorry, it was so cold outside, I had to bundle up a little bit here. Okay, so in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 5th canto, there is a description called the island of Jambudweep. That's one of the major planetary situations here in the universe. And there's many different varshas, or like islands that go around the Jambudweep. So, this is prayers from the area of Kim Purusha Varsh. That's where Hanuman lives with Aristasena, and he's always there. We all know that Hanuman loves Kirtan, Ram Bhajan. And so here, Hanumanji is saying several beautiful prayers, but I'm just going to read one of them, two of them. I'm not going to read all of them. There's probably 8 or 10. Okay. You can repeat after me. Na Janma Nunang Mahato Na Sobhagyang Na Van Na Budhir Na Kritis Tosha Hetuhu Tyre Yad Vishristan Api No Vanukashash Chakara Sakye Bhata Lakshmanagraja. So we know in the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra that there was a lot of non-humans involved in his wonderful pastimes. So this is in regards to that. Translation. One cannot establish a friendship with the Supreme Lord Ramachandra on the basis of material qualities, such as one's birth in an aristocratic family, one's personal beauty, one's eloquence, one's sharp intelligence, or one's superior race or nation. None of these qualifications is actually a prerequisite for friendship with Lord Sri Ramachandra. Otherwise, how is it possible that although we uncivilized inhabitants of the forest have not taken noble births, although we have no physical beauty, and although we cannot speak like gentlemen, Lord Ramachandra has nonetheless accepted us as friends? Next verse. Therefore, whether one is a demigod, a demon, a man, or a creature other than man, such as a beast or bird, everyone should worship Lord Ramchandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears on this earth just like a human being. There is no need of great austerities or penances to worship the Lord, for he accepts even a small service offered by his devotee. Thus he is satisfied. As soon as he is satisfied, the devotee is successful. Indeed, Lord Sri Ramachandra brought all the devotees of Ayodhya back home, back to Godhead, to Vaikuntha. So, here we're seeing some of the beautiful qualifications of the Lord. It's described that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, that there's a list of all the incarnations. Of course, not all the incarnations, but some of the main incarnations are listed in this chapter called Krishna is the Source of All Incarnations. Maybe some of you have read that. In that chapter, it lists so many beautiful names, but one of the things that it mentions is that if we spend time hearing about the incarnations of the Lord, then we'll be able to gradually understand the mysterious qualities and aspects and reasons for the Lord's descent. And as Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame devyam evam yo veritattvadaha toktvadeham punarjanma naiti mameti swarjana, that if we try and spend our life, a little bit of our life, trying to understand these different incarnations of the Lord by studying from qualified people, not from unqualified people, has to be from those who are situated in the parampara system of the Lord. The Lord has a system of education. It's like here we go to college and we learn from people that have PhDs or degrees in a particular subject, and you have to, pay so much, and you have to be a good submissive student and not disrupt the class. So then you can get some form of education. So a lot of people come to America because here you can make more money. But the actual qualification for hearing about the Lord is that we learn how to become like Sri Arjuna, Krishna's friend and devotee, who was very submissive to him, that he gave up. He knew he was suffering, and he gave up and said, Krishna, please help me understand. I take shelter of you. I'll listen to you. I surrender to you. So there's a certain mood of trying to understand. If we're challenging because we don't really understand where everything comes from and how everything was created, and we have contaminated materialistic ideas about how everything is going on in this world because we listened to the teachers at college and other PhDs and different people who speculate on how everything is happening. They actually don't really know. They've dug up a few bones and they've done a little bit of research, but they actually have no clue of really what happened in the beginning of the creation. They're just speculating. So we have faith in those speculations, but here the Lord's pastimes are being described by pure people who will never cheat you. Never. The cheating is no longer in their consciousness. They're pure devotees of the Lord. They don't have imperfect senses. They don't make mistakes. They don't cheat. What's the other one? They're not under any illusions. Whereas everybody here in this world is coming up with theories and philosophies of creation, and they don't have the qualification because they have imperfect senses. But here we are, yeah, it's like this and it's like that. And then you die like Darwin. He came up with his theory of evolution. He couldn't complete the theory, couldn't prove the theory, but we're hearing that in schools like as if it's the truth. But everybody knows if you just listen to the title, it's already not perfect, it's only a theory. So here in the Bhagavatam, Hanumanji is offering prayers. Now I would say Hanuman is a qualified person to pray to the Lord because he was there with the Lord, right? He got to see the first-hand qualities of the Lord. So he is a perfect person, like Arjuna was, to be able to speak about the glories of the Lord. So also, in the beautiful pastimes of Lord Ram, there were great sages there, in particular Valmiki. He was there as the primary person who understood the glories of the Lord. There's a special pastime where he got angry at somebody who killed a bird. These two beautiful birds were singing and obviously in love, and this hunter came and shot one of them. And then he pronounced this curse in this beautiful Sanskrit language, condemning this hunter for killing this bird. And then he realized, why should I do that? And then he started to think about it, he meditated, and he thought, well, this meter of this song, of this sloka that I chanted in the form of a curse is very wonderful. And then he got a confirmation from Lord Brahma that he should compose the pastimes of the Lord, because he asked Narad Muni earlier, who is the most qualified person on earth right now? Who possesses all the good qualities that are able to be possessed? Who is that? And he said, it is Lord Sri Ramachandra, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of God, who possesses all the good qualities. So then he was given the access to the pastimes of the Lord. And so it's a very special book, and there's many, many amazing pastimes that are told in the Ramayana. And so in the beginning, we just want to get purified by saying their names. Dasarath Maharaj, the pure devotee who's the father of Lord Ram, Bharata, Shatrughna, and Lakshman, was feeling great anxiety because he didn't have a successor to take over the kingdom. Now he was living in which city? Ayodhya. Whose city did that belong to before he got it? Vaivashvata Manu. So this is millions. Lord Ramachandra's pastimes were 2,500,000 years ago. So sometimes you can Google on the internet, what are the oldest cities in the world? And you'll come up with all these different cities that are like 10,000 years old. But nobody recognizes that Ayodhya is millions of years old, and some other tirthas in India that are millions of years old, because they don't accept that history of the Vedas. But here the Bhagavatam is confirming who the founder of Ayodhya was, and that it's been around for so long. So anyway, Dasarath Maharaj was in anxiety, so they were able to get this special, powerful young yogi named Risha Shringa. They tricked him out of his house because his father had raised him in an ashram with no other human beings for his whole life until he was like into his teenage years. So they tricked him by an interesting way to get out of the house. And then they brought him, it was to, I forget his name, was it Romapad Maharaj? That's the one that Dasarath had a daughter, and he gave him his daughter. So she was able to go there and marry that daughter. And then Dasarath asked Romapad Maharaj if this great rishi could come and do a special sacrifice for him. Because wherever this person went, everything would be good, right? Because he was so pious and so spiritually powerful. So he performed a special ritual to have children. And he worshipped the demigods. And out of the fire came this one demigod with a pot of payasam, or sweet rice, right? Rice cooked in milk. And he said, if you feed this to your wives, then they will have children. So who knows the names of Dasarath's 3 wives? Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra. Thank you. So they, Sumitra, she drank first, then Kaushalya, I think, drank second, then Kaikeyi, how do you say her name? Kaikeyi drank third, and then back to Sumitra again, because she had the twins. She had Lakshman and Shatrughna, and Kaushalya had Ram, and Kaikeyi had Bharat. So it all worked out really wonderful. There's different descriptions of who they are. There's some descriptions that say that Lakshman was Lord Sesha, who the Lord lies down on the Kajal and Kir ocean, and that Bharata and Shatrughna and were his weapons, the conch shell and the disc. But there's other descriptions also, because they come so many times, and they come from different forms. But anyway, so these divine personalities came, and of course, naturally, just like Krishna, they were so beautiful, for starters, and they're the most transcendental young children, and they're so brilliant that naturally everybody just completely fell in love with the kids, right? It's like they became the cynosure of the eyes of everybody in Ayodhya. Ram especially was so beautiful. That's why they call him Ram Chandra, because his face was beautiful like the full moon. Like that picture, if any of you seen pictures of the temple now in Ayodhya, when they installed Ram back there, was it a couple of years ago? How beautiful his face is, really round, right? So Lord Ram's face is very beautiful like the full moon. So after they were raised and they went to school, then a special thing happened. Ram was about 16 or so. Then a great sage showed up to see Dasarath Maharaj. Anybody remember who the sage was? Vishvamitra Muni. Now Vishvamitra Muni used to be a warrior, used to be a king, but because he was motivated kind of by an insult by the power of a Brahmana, was that Vishishta or was it a different one? It was Vishishta. He decided to perform penance and austerity to get Brahma Tejas. So he finally, after tens of thousands of years of this austerity, he became a Brahma Rishi. So he was doing a special sacrifice to glorify the Lord, and two of Ravana's servants, Tataka and Marich, her son, they were disturbing the sacrifices, and Marich and Subahu in particular were disturbing their sacrifice. They would pour blood and all kinds of stuff on the yagna arena. And of course, Vishwamitra was so powerful he could easily kill them, but he didn't want to lose any of his spiritual shakti just on killing these guys. So he went to Dasarath Maharaj and asked Dasarath if he could take Ram with him. And of course, Dasarath was a pure devotee, and he was so much in love with Lord Ramachandra that he fainted actually. He was just to think of being separated from Ram. And then when Vishwamitra got there, he's like, oh yes, we'll do anything you want. I promise you everything. And then as soon as he asked him to let him have Ram, then he was like, I don't know about that. This is getting too personal here. He's only 16. How is he going to fight with these big Rakshasas, these big man-eaters? And so then Vishishta calmed him down and said, no, Vishwamitra is so powerful that if you send Ram with him and Lakshman, they'll become more qualified and glorified by helping Vishwamitra. So Vishwamitra took them, and Lord Ram and Lakshman learned some beautiful protective mantras from him, Bal and Ati Bal, right? And then finally made it to the arena of sacrifice, and when the two demons showed up, Ram killed, what was his name? Subahu? Killed him, and then he sent the other one, Marichi. He sent him with an astra that was like a tornado weapon, and it sent him flying out into the ocean. So then Maricha was, after that, he was a little bit shocked with the power of Lord Ramachandra. So he decided to become a hermit, a yogi, and just meditate and try to understand the position of himself being the eternal servant of Ram. He basically became a devotee. But later, when Shuparnika met Sri Ramachandra in the Dandakaranya, When she came there and saw the beauty of Lord Ram, she immediately, and she was a Rakshasi, she was very hideous looking. But all of her and her brothers, the brothers were Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Vibhishan, Shurpanakha, and the two that were in the heads of the army there that got killed. Kar and Dushar, and there's another one that lived under the earth. What was his name? Mahiravana. So they all performed great austerities to get powers from Lord Brahma. Vibhishan was the only one who really had any intelligence, because he asked Lord Brahma for bhakti. And Ravana was like, what are you doing? Asking for devotion. Another one, he said, we already had Prahlad in the family, and now you want to be a devotee too? Oh man, you're nonsense. Because everybody else is asking for powers. And so he's asking for all of these his different idea of powers. And his brother, the big one, Kumbhakarna, was already a massive giant. And he wanted to ask to live forever. But Brahma was like, man, I can't give him this benediction because I can't give it anyway. But just what is he going to do? He's already this tyrannical, demoniac person. So he asked Mother Saraswati to change his pronunciation when he spoke the desire he wanted. So then he spoke this word, I don't remember the Sanskrit. Maybe somebody here remembers. Nidrasani, instead of Indrasani. So he asked for eternal sleep, and Brahma said right away, yes. And he goes, wait, I said the wrong word. He goes, I didn't do all these austerities here just so I could sleep for thousands and thousands of years. You got to give me a break here, Lord Brahma. So Brahma says, okay, you can eat for 6 months and then sleep for 6 months. So he still was pretty useless. And what's the name? Mahiravana? He asked for some really insane benediction that trying to figure out how not to get killed, and it was a very complicated series of where he kept his life force and all these different things. And of course Lord Ramachandra and Hanuman and Vayu figured out how to kill him, and they killed him too. And but Suparnika got the benediction that she could change her form whenever she wanted to. So that's what happened when she fell in love with Lord Ram. Then she changed her form into this gorgeous form and approached Lord Ramachandra. And then they started having jokes with her. It was entertainment in the forest there, because they loved the forest, but there wasn't so much entertainment like there was in the palace with the dancers and the jokers and all the different people that were entertaining the king in the palace. So when she approached Ram and said, I've accepted you as my husband, so now you have to marry me. And he goes, that's not really going to be possible because I've already accepted Sita as my wife. And, she's very attached to me and we have a great relationship. So, but my brother here points to Lakshman, who's also very powerful and handsome. He's Lord Seshanag. He is available. His wife, he's married, but his wife's not here. So you can go, and I'm sure he'll accept you. So then she turns and she walks over to Lakshman and makes her proposal to him. And Lakshman's like, yeah, but you really don't want to accept me because I'm just a slave of my brother, and you're a princess after all. So what are you going to become, the wife of a slave of my brother? You're a free spirit. You just told us you're a free spirit, and so it's not going to work out. So you should go back and tell Ram that he should accept you. So then she's pretty bewildered by their potencies. And she keeps going back and forth, right? And so she finally goes back to Lord Ram again. So Sorry, this thing's weird. Anyway, she goes back to Lord Ram, and then she becomes angry. And she's thinking, this Sita is really what's in between us. I'll just eat her up really quick, and then I'll be able to marry Lord Ram. So then she challenges and charges toward Sita Devi, and Lord Ram gets in the middle, and he tells Lakshman, please stop her. Please teach her a lesson. So he cuts off her nose, her ears, and some other parts. And she goes off screaming and crying and mutilated by Lakshman. And then she goes to her brother Kar and Dushar in the, what's the forest called where they lived? Huh? No. Where the demons lived. They had their whole settlement there. Huh? Yeah. I thought it was a different one. Anyway. So anyway, she went there and cried to her brothers. And so Kar sent 12 generals there to go attack these very powerful Rakshasas, to attack Ram and Sita. And so Ramachandra asked Lakshman to take Sita to a cave, and he went out and instantly killed these 12 guys, I think with just one arrow. And but Suparnika was there watching, because she wanted to see if she could get revenge. So then she went back again and said, your 12 generals were dead instantly as soon as Ram pulled out his weapons. He's no ordinary person. I've never seen anybody like that before. You have to go yourself and bring your whole army of 14,000 Rakshasas. So then they mount up and they ride out there. And of course, Ram and Lakshman are expecting this because of what just happened. And then, same thing, Ram says, he doesn't have a chariot or anything. He's just on the ground with his bow and arrows. So he sends Lakshman and Sita back to the cave. And within an hour, he kills all 14,000. Huh? 2 hours, we're hearing. There's different versions. Some say less than 2 hours. And some say he only used one arrow to kill all 14,000. But there's different versions. Every state of India has a different Ramayana. So there's different versions slightly. And so then one of those demons that was in the 14,000 ran back to Ravana and told Ravana what happened. So, and he gave Ravana the idea. Do you remember his name? I don't remember his name. He was in this demon anyway. So he came back and told Ravan, there's this person, Ram, who just destroyed your entire colony of Rakshasas, the whole army of 14,000. Janistan, that's the name. Janistan, not the other name. Janistan. So, and then he said, he gave Ravana the idea that, you're not going to be able to kill Ram because he's actually the supreme person. He's unlimitedly powerful. I've never seen anybody fight like him before. But you can steal his beautiful wife, and that will destroy his motivation to live. So that really fired up Ravana, because he liked to steal other people's wives. That was part of his pastime of sinful activities, was stealing others' wives. He had some enormous amount of wives. I think it was 22,000 wives from all over the universe, all the different heavenly planets. All the most gorgeous ladies from all over the universe were his wives, and because he was so powerful, they actually all loved him. So then Ravan went to go see Marichi about helping him to attract Sita by becoming a deer, and Marichi said, oh, Ram? You want to mess with Lord Ram? He goes, whoever told you this is your enemy. He said, Lord Ram can destroy the entire universe. What to speak of you? he's so powerful that there's no way you can fight him. He said, when he was 16, I was there attacking Vishvamitra, and he killed Subahu, and he sent me flying out into the ocean on this tornado weapon. And he said, ever since then, I have changed my life. So whoever's telling you to do this, you should consider that person your worst enemy, because you cannot defeat Lord Ram. So then actually Ravana took it seriously to not do the whole thing. He was like kind of pacified that, okay, I didn't know he was that powerful type of thing. Even though Ravana was so powerful that nobody else could kill him in the universe, he was that powerful. So then he came back, and then after the 14,000 were killed, then his sister shows up, Suparnika. And she's all bloody, and she's all stressed out because she just got mutilated. And then she starts to lie to Ravana a little bit to try and get him to become motivated to help her. He starts to tell her that, yes, Ram just killed your 14,000. And he goes, well, how did you get mutilated? He goes, well, I was trying to steal his wife Sita for you because she's so beautiful. She'll be a fitting wife for you. And she started describing how beautiful Sita was, and Ravana was like, oh, wow. She sounds like I should steal her because she's that beautiful, and she'll make another wonderful wife. Like I don't have enough already. I had 22,000 wives. But he was very lusty, so he couldn't control himself. So then he decided with his counsel, with some, and then he decided that he should go and steal Sita. But many people told him not to. Vibhishan told him not to. His grandfather told him not to. And how many heads did Ravana have? So 9 out of the 10 heads told him not to. There's like, no, don't do it. You're living a happy life here with all the people here, all the Rakshasas. You're doing fine. He says, if you steal Sita, then you will call upon you the wrath of Ram, and you will lose your entire dynasty, the city, everything. You'll be dead with all of your warriors and your sons. And he was like, nah, I want Sita. So he just defied all the intelligent counseling. It was obviously his time to go, right? This is all the Lord's plan. The Lord decided to come to earth because the demigods, whenever they get into trouble, they go to the shore of the milk ocean to talk to Kiradakshai Vishnu. Kir means condensed milk, right? So in his expansion is the Lord in our hearts, called the super soul, the Param Atma. But the demigods, when they get into trouble, they go to pray to Kiradakshai Vishnu, and Lord Brahma is their via medium, because the Lord directly talks to Brahma. So he prays to the Lord gives him an answer, and he said, okay, all you demigods, how much time do I have? All you demigods, you take birth as monkeys and bears to help me in my pastime, because Ravana didn't ask for protection when he got his big boon to not to get killed. He didn't include humans or monkeys or animals. He thought they were too insignificant. So anyway, so Ram gets remotivated to go steal Sita, and he goes back to Maricha, and Maricha's like, what are you doing back here? And he goes, and he gave him a whole lecture again about Ram, and Ravana said, I didn't come here to hear a lecture from you. I came here to tell you that you're going to go and become this fancy deer and attract Sita and attract Ram away so that I can kidnap her. And that way, I'll get my revenge on Ram. So, if you don't do it, I'm going to kill you. So then Maricha thought, well, I'd rather be killed by Ram than by you. That's more auspicious, right? A death as a warrior, in a sense, is what he was, kind of a demon warrior. But anyway, so then he went with Ravana, and they performed the duty, and he was able to steal Sita, but the real Sita disappeared inside the hut. When she knew that Ravana was out there, she came back to the house. She entered into the fire, and Agni created another imitation Sita, and she came out and got kidnapped by Ravana. She was an exact duplicate of Sita, because Ravana had just seen her before she went back into the house to get him some fruit. So then he took off, and our dear hero Jatayu was nearby, and he heard Sita screaming as Ravana was driving off his chariot of mules with demon faces. It didn't get into detail in the book I was reading of what their actual faces look like, but mules with some kind of demon faces. And Jatayu said, "Stop." And Jatayu is really big. He was not a small eagle. He and his brother Sampati can fly from planet to planet. So they weren't small birds. Their wingspans were so big. They were very, very big, because there's a description of Sampati coming off the mountain when he heard the bears talking about Jatayu being killed. Very large. So when he attacked Ravana, he crushed his chariot, he killed his mules, he killed the chariot driver, he tore off Ravana's crown. With his talons, he ripped huge pieces of flesh from Ravana's body. And but Ravana was so strong, he took his sword and he cut his wings and his legs off, so he was just laying on the ground. So when Ram and Lakshman were looking for Sita, Lord Ramachandra was in deep anxiety. Then after some time, they were following these deer who were heading south, and they got some indication from the deer that they should follow the southerly direction. And then they started seeing all this stuff on the ground. First of all, they saw flowers that Ram had given Sita, and they saw a piece of cloth, and then they started seeing all these different pieces of paraphernalia that were laying all over the place from the battle that Jatayu had just had with Ravana. So what happened was, after he after he chopped up Jatayu, then he just grabbed Sita and flew by himself all the way to Lanka. So when Ram found Jatayu, he thought he was a Rakshasa because he looked so gross, because he was all cut up and he was really big. But then Jatayu said, "No, Ram, I just had a battle with Ravana, and I don't have much time left." But I tell you, they went south. And so Ram was very, very appreciative of the sacrifice that Jatayu made, and he said, now you're leaving this body. I bless you that you have the bliss of all the eternal devotees, all the great sages. You'll have the bliss of all the different blessings of all the most pious people, and you'll go back to the spiritual world. So here in this verse, it was talking about a bird, that Lord Ramachandra had friends that were animals and birds. So then they started going to, and he said, go to Kishkinda to meet Hanuman and Sugriva. So then they went there, and that's a whole long pastime. He killed Vali, and then got the help of the army of Sugriv, and they all split up in different directions, and eventually they ended up on the beach, and that's when Sampati told them that he saw Ravana fly over with Sita. So they helped him get to the top of the mountain, and he was really big. And he had gotten a blessing from, I think it was Indra, that when he helped Lord Ram in his pastimes, he would regain his wings and everything. Because he was flying to try and protect Jatayu from the sun. They were so close to the sun, that's how high they could fly, how far they could fly. His wings got burnt and he fell down to that spot because he was trying to save Jatayu. So anyway, he comes out and he says, he gets on top of the mountain, he goes, and he's looking, and this is a long distance. This is like 100 yojanas, which is 800 miles. the topography has changed since then. But he could see Ravana on top of his building. He could see the city of what's it called? Lanka. He could see the city of Lanka. And then they were saying, yeah, but where's Sita? And he's looking and looking, and then he sees this Ashok tree, this huge Ashok tree, and he sees a piece of yellow cloth, and he describes it, and Hanuman says, yes, she was wearing this yellow cloth. So then they were very excited that he was there, and then all of a sudden his wings grew back, and everything came back, and he just took off. So then they were all much in anxiety. How are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? So Jambavan gave Hanuman the clue that actually you're way more powerful. You just forgot your powers. You can actually do it. So Hanuman got really big, and he jumped on the name of Ram. He went Ra, and he jumped on Ra, and when he got to Lanka, he said Ma. So he went really fast. And it's described just like we have, what is it called, where the jets fly, that area, the jet stream. The demigods have different jet streams according to the different planets they're on. And the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka and Satyaloka and those different higher planets, he got to their jet stream and got there really fast. And there's a lot of pastimes. There's a few things that happened in between. We're running out of time here. But he finally got there, and he changed himself into a tiny monkey, and he met Lankini, who was the guard of Lanka, and had a conversation with her and gave her a slap and knocked her out. And she realized that the prophecy had been that when she gets knocked out, that's the end of Ravana's rule and the end of the whole Rakshasa race. So anyway, Hanuman went in and he couldn't find Sita. And he got to see all the other wives of Ravana in this giant palace. And then he realized Sita wouldn't be in here. She would be pining in anxiety and be skinny and should be, so stressed out from being kidnapped. So then he started looking around and he finally saw the Ashok tree garden and remembered that Sampati had said that there was this yellow garment there. So he goes there just at the time when Ravana and he jumped into this tree. And there's different versions of this story too, but this, one of the versions we just heard from, is that he got there just as Ravana was telling her, I'm going to give you this much time, and if you don't surrender, then I'll have you cooked. And he told the Rakshasi ladies around Sita that were watching her, make her surrender to me. So they started in trying to give their 2 cents worth to try and have her surrender to Ravana, and Hanuman appeared and he scared them all away. There's different versions. But he came and she thought that he was Ravana, so she questioned him, and then he pulled out this ring that was Ram's ring that she had given him, and she finally trusted him. And she says, you're such a tiny monkey. How did you fly across the whole ocean? He goes, well, I can get really big. She's like, you're such a tiny monkey. How's that possible? So then he starts to get really big, and she realizes, oh, he's telling the truth. So then after he talks to her, he said, I'm a monkey, and I have to do some mischief here, because I'm a monkey. So I'm going to destroy this entire garden, and I'm going to cause them to have a reaction. So he destroys the entire Ashok garden. He's eating all the fruits and tearing everything down and busting up temples and whatever was there. So the head of the garden guy, the head of the garden, the manager of the garden, comes up to yell at Hanuman, who's standing on a railing, on a wall. And Hanuman, this is kind of gross, but it's so funny, I got to tell it. So Hanuman hadn't passed urine for many hours since he jumped over and all this thing. So he was on the wall passing urine, and the guy starts talking to him, so he turned around and he passed urine right in the mouth of the demon. And so the demon was like, oh my God. So he went back to Ravana and he said, there's this crazy monkey. He's destroyed the whole garden and this and that, and he passed urine in my mouth. Ravana was like, what? What is this? You know, you're complaining now that some monkey passed. Of course, monkeys do stuff like that, you know. He didn't realize how big Hanuman was. So then he sent Jambumali. So you're talking about a whole island of just man-eaters and total demoniac people, right? Jambumali, we all know people that like to drink alcohol and get drunk, right? We've all had that experience. So Jambumali lived in a pond of alcohol. All he had to do was lean over with his cup and take the alcohol out of the lake and keep drinking. He was a real alcoholic, a super alcoholic. I don't know what you call those, but he was. So they called him to fight Hanuman, and he said, Ravana said, I want you to kill a monkey. He was like, what? A monkey? I'm going back to the lake. And he goes, no, this is a special monkey. So then he says, all right. So he goes there, and he sees Hanuman, and he brings 80,000 soldiers with him. And he starts to talk to Hanuman, and he's very proud, and he's like, I can easily defeat you because I can get really big. And Hanuman's like, huh? Really? You think you can get big, huh? All right, let's see it. So he closes his eyes, and while the guy's closing his eyes and his body's growing bigger, Hanuman kills all 80,000 soldiers with this temple pillar thing. He crushes the entire army, and then he gets so big that when Jambumali opens his eyes, he sees this big moon-like thing in front of his face. And he's like, and then he looks over and he sees another one further over, and Hanuman's at the top. Those are my kneecaps. I'm up here. So Jambumali's like, oh my God, Hanuman's way up in the sky, and he's just looking at his kneecaps. So then he realizes he's in bad shape, Jambumali. So he starts talking to Hanuman. There's different versions of what that happened there too. So he tried to talk him down a little bit to his normal size so they could have an even fight. But Hanuman ended up killing him with the rest of the 80,000. There's one description that he actually threw Jambumali out of the ocean too. Anyway, then the big fight happened. We're going to run out in 1 minute here, so I can't really continue the pastime. But it's impossible because it's such a long, beautiful story. But the idea is that we, Jai Shri Shri Radha Chandra Bhagavan Ki, the Abhishek's going to start in a minute, so maybe have a minute or two, right? So the idea is that we're trying to convey that not only this wonderful pastime, but we're trying to convey that Lord Ram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that only he could kill Ravana and Kumbhakarna and Indrajit and so many of the other unlimitedly powerful Rakshasas that the other demigods weren't capable of killing. The most powerful of the demigods, Indra, was defeated by, what's his name? Meghanath, who became named Indrajit after he defeated Indra. So, and Lakshman killed him, and Lord Ram killed Kumbhakarna, who was like this massive giant. Actually, there's another description that when he came out, Hanuman came out, and they both got really big. And it started to sink the entire island because it was so heavy. So Ram told Hanuman, back down, I'll take care of him. So he had his bows and arrows, his divine ashras, nothing was working. Finally, he was able to shoot off his arms and his legs, and then finally his head. And then everybody in the whole demon army, they all got killed by Lord Ram and Lakshman. And then Ravana came out of total anguish and anger. He was going to kill Sita, but everybody said, don't kill Sita. He was rushing off to go kill Sita, and they told him, no, take your anger out on Ram. So he went out to have a battle with Ram. Ram defeated him and said, go back and rest, come back tomorrow. Gave him his weapons back. So he came back the next, he was totally humiliated. So he came back to fight, and then there was a special place he had his life force also, which Vibhishana showed him where to shoot Ravana instead of because he was cutting off all the 10 heads, they would just grow back. So he finally killed him properly. And then Vibhishan did all the last rites, so the funeral ceremony, and he had already crowned Vibhishan the king of Lanka. And then they all jumped on this beautiful airplane that used to belong to Kuvera, and it expanded, and the whole army got on, and they drove to Kishkinda to pick up the wives of some of Sugriva and everybody. And they went to Ayodhya, and they were a little late because Bharat said, if they don't come by this time, I'm jumping in the fire. So Lord Ram sent Hanuman ahead, and he was yelling, Ram's coming, Ram's coming. So that's when they had Deepavali. That's when they lit up all the lamps to receive Lord Ram. It's not just a day to have sweets, which is what it's become, kind of a wonderful, everybody cooks at home and they have tons of sweets, right? In India and stuff, so, and here. But actually it's a celebration of Lord Ram coming. So we want Lord Ram to come to our hearts. So the way we do that is by associating and getting purified by the association of Lord Ram. And the way we do that is by hearing about Ram from authorized sources and by singing Ram's name. And of course, the Hare Krishna mantra, the second half is Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we're singing Lord Ramachandra's names every day. So the way that we get purified to where the Lord will come to us gradually is by this chanting process and by hearing through proper authorities the pastimes and teachings of the Lord. So if anybody has any questions, we have time for one? Or no? Not really. So we'll wait. If you want, I'll be sitting over here on the sidelines. But now we're going to get ready for the Abhishek, right? Okay. Thank you very much for listening. Shri Ramachandra Bhagavan Ki.